Apparently, Savage's father believed in the sort of tough love that resembles love only in retrospect. Quote, it was like an Abraham and Isaac relationship, he writes in Psychological Nudity, adding, I think if he had the rock and knife, I wouldn't be here today. Later in the book, he compares Abraham to an Islamo-fascist. His mother took care of Michael and for a time his younger brother Jerome, who was born blind and deaf and unable to hold himself up, in Savage's words. On the advice of a doctor, Jerome was institutionalized, quote, packed off like an animal to live and suffer and die in silence, alone in one New York snake pit after another, close quote. Although his father tolerated no discussion of religious faith, Savage was raised in a thoroughly Jewish world, and he still winces when he recalls the time he made his sports car backfire in front of the synagogue during Yom Kippur services. He says, I mocked my own people and my own religion, he says now. And then he goes on, da-da-da-da-da. Savage was brought up in a family of Democrats, and it's hard not to read the poem as a complicated homage to his mother, who died in Boca Raton in 2003. He's talking about the poem that I wrote in the election of 2000, The Land of Sunshine, Trotskys, and Delis. It's a great, great poem, by the way. Savage's childhood instilled in him a fondness for hardworking immigrants, paired with and sometimes overwhelmed by a disgust for more recent arrivals who seem to be shirking the responsibilities of citizenship. Borders, language, and culture is one of his rallying cries. He believes that in America all three are under siege, and he points to illegals as one of the prime causes. When news broke of the H1N1 flu outbreak, he played mariachi music while gleefully chronicling the virus's progress and mocking the Obama administration's refusal to close the borders. He's right. But he is also a deeply sentimental man. And so when he noticed that the staff at a local Italian restaurant was 99% Hispanic people, he was inspired to suggest on the air, not in the restaurant, quote, the kind of political compromise he usually abhors, quote, you clean out the 30% of illegal aliens who constitute our prison population, you get rid of the bums on welfare, you cut off free medical care, and I'll tell you what, then you can give everyone else citizenship as far as I'm concerned, close quote. It's pretty good. I mean, it's true. I'm a fair-minded guy. Settled in the Bay Area in 1974, spent years communing with the local beats and hipsters, members of a radical fringe that he now considers a symptom of America's sickness, and maybe the sickness that almost claimed him. It's true, they're all sick. Most of them are dead. The ones who are living are mentally ill. He calls Ferlinghetti a jealous little man, and he has said that Ginsburg was the effing devil. In the Savage Nation, he celebrates the death of an unnamed beatnik poet. In fact, it's G.C., whom he calls one of the blights of the human race. He was a horrible man, by the way. Even as he was rejecting one counterculture, he was immersing himself in another. In Hawaii, he began his transformation into one of the nation's foremost herbalists, earning master's degrees in anthropology and ethnobotany. He brought his wife along on his expeditions to Fiji, where he collected and analyzed local medicinal plants, and in 1978 he earned a degree that sounds like something from a conservative parody of liberal university culture, a Ph.D. in nutritional ethnomedicine from the University of California at Berkeley. Yeah, it may sound like a parody, but it was probably the hardest degree you could ever earn. I like things tough, so I chose the hardest possible hybrid field in the world. As his early days, he built a small empire as a consultant and the author of a string of crunchy advice books: Plant a Tree, Earth Medicine, Earth Food, The Art of Feeding Children Well, Maximum Immunity. The books were the fruit of a personal quest. His father had died young of a heart attack, as had his father's father, and he later learned his father's father's father. Savage was searching for a way to defy heredity. Despite the success of the books, he says, he found himself unable to ascend the academic ladder, and he concluded that he was being discriminated against because of his race and gender. In 1977, Savage wrote a poem called The Death of the White Male, which he distributed as a pamphlet 14 years later. The poem, which was originally conceived as a plea for help to President Carter, is part manifesto and part job application. He writes, I am the smallest minority in America, an individual man who aligns himself with no group, calls himself by no race, but strives always for excellence. Savage says that over the years his political orientation never really changed, but he hasn't always identified with conservatism. He says that his difficulties in academia left him feeling alienated from society and helped nudge him out of the liberal orbit. Sather Tower, the main landmark of University of California at Berkeley, is visible from his house, and he's amused by the idea that one lousy tenure-track job might have been enough to prevent him from becoming a radio star. Quote, had I been given a teaching position, would I have voted for Obama in the last election? I don't know, he said. He thought about it. That's an interesting question. He thought some more. The answer is no, he said finally, because I detested doctrinaire liberals even then. Well, I'm not going to read anymore. I want you to read it. I want you to go and buy the August 3rd edition of The New Yorker in order to read the profile Party of One, Michael Savage Unexpurgated by Kay Sana, for two reasons. One, because I think you'll enjoy having it, and two, because I want you to show the liberal establishment that conservatives read and you buy magazines. And now I'll take your calls. San Francisco, KNEW. Matt, go ahead, please. What do you think so far?
Hi, Savage. I think that this reporter is so fair and understanding of what you do that he must be a secret closet conservative.
Well, he's not a reporter. You got to remember, he's not a reporter. He's a journalist. Well, call him what you will. He's a writer. So I don't think he's a closet anything. I think he's just a good writer. But see, here's the problem. People come into these interviews with a guy like me, and they want to skewer me. This happened years ago. I'll tell you, the magazine. Newsweek sent a reporter out about 8 years ago to interview Michael Savage. They sent him out to write a hit piece. I forget the author's name. I wish I could remember. It was a big guy. Actually, he wasn't that famous then. He's very famous now. So the guy comes out to write a hit piece on me. He actually realizes that I'm not the guy that they thought I was. He likes me. He writes a salutary article about me, and they don't publish it. He fights with Newsweek. They don't publish it because it's too complimentary. He quits Newsweek, and he goes out, and he's a very, very famous big shot journalist today. I don't remember the guy's name. I wish someone could tell me who it was. If you remember the show. I don't remember all these things, but there's an example. I thought the same thing was going to happen here. This article was hanging for months now. It should have come out a month ago during the British thing. Should have come out like in the middle of May. Anyway, it's coming out now. So here it is. Is it 100% accurate? No. I mean, there's some errors in there. There's some mistakes where he says I record 3 hours of the show every day. I don't record 3 hours of the show every day. The show is live. Little things like that. There's a statement that I called for the dissolution of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. I've never done that. I called for the dissolution of affirmative action because I think it's unfair. So, I mean, there were a couple of errors, but by and large, it's 99% pretty good. But more than that, I think it captures me. The drawing, I don't know. I don't know where those lips came from. I wouldn't want to kiss those lips. I'm sorry. No, I'm shocked, man. They made the lips weird. They're really weird. They curled up like a little nasty mouth. That's not me. Come on. Oh, I see what the artist was getting at. The eyes they got, the suspicious eyes they got, I admit it. I trust no one. Everyone is going to stab you in the back if they're given enough opportunity. Even if they don't want to, and it's the fault of the apple. Even if they don't want to, even if a person doesn't want to, they're going to disappoint you because it's the fault of the apple. It's the way we are. We're flawed people. Play a little music on the way out the door. I'll see you later. This is the Savage Nation. Hope you enjoyed it. I've had a good time.
Savage. Michael Savage. Afternoons 3 to 7 on Talk 910 KNEW and online at 910KNEW.com.